Tonight, breaking news, the Service SA technical glitch leaving motorists in the lurch.
Also silent for 25 years, now the sister of a Snowtown victim tells her story.
Labor accused of dirty tactics as the opposition leader backs his embattled by-election candidate.
A snap ban on fishing catches a popular coastal community off guard at the busiest time of year.
And live to Alberton for the Powers final pre-season hit-out as key players stake their claim on a round one spot.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News with Rosanna Mangiarelli and Will Goodings.
Good evening. First to a major Service SA bungle that could mean South Australian drivers are tonight on our roads unregistered and uninsured.
Let's go live to Lauren Rose with more on this breaking story. And Lauren, rego renewal payments aren't being processed.
They're not, Will. Service SA is tonight scrambling to deal with a technical issue that's causing online rego payments to bounce back. Affected customers don't realise their payments aren't going through though, and are getting behind the wheel none the wiser. Victor Harbour resident David Anthony says if he hadn't noticed his payment was still pending, he'd be on the road unregistered and therefore not covered by compulsory third-party insurance.
The problem is your insurance won't cover it if you're in an accident and, you know, more importantly, Service SA are failing to provide us with the service that we pay for.
The Transport Department has told me the issue affects those who have tried to make an online renewal since 8 o'clock last night. It's urging them to get back online and if their rego expiry hasn't updated, to call or visit a Service SA centre where they'll be issued with a temporary permit to drive an unregistered vehicle. The department is working round the clock to fix the problem and is tonight collating a list of affected customers for SA Police in case they're pulled over for driving unregistered. And for anyone in a panic, several Service SA centres will be open tomorrow, including this one at Prospect. Will?
OK, thank you for that, Lauren. 25 years after the Snowtown murders, one of the victims' families has spoken for the first time, giving a chilling insight into the killer's minds.
Ray Davies' sister says she's living in fear as one of the men convicted over the horrific crimes prepares to walk from prison.
After 25 years, Karen Davies can no longer stay silent. Her brother's gruesome murder still haunts her, and so do the monsters responsible.
It's an issue that I can't bear to talk about because of the way he went, the things that happened to him.
Ray Davies was the Snowtown killer's second victim, but the last to be identified. His body was found buried at John Bunting's Salisbury North home. Karen making this public plea in July 1999 as police tried to find her missing brother.
If there's any dentists out there that, have any dental records of my brother.
Her worst fears soon confirmed. Ray had been strangled and bashed in a bath and had his toe crushed with a pair of pliers.
The way he got tortured and what he got put through, body parts cut off.
Karen Davies breaking her silence after learning that Mark Hayden, the man who helped John Bunting and Robert Wagner dispose of their victims' bodies, will be released from prison within weeks.
I can never say I love you, but yet Mark Hayden comes out to see his family, see his friends.
Any day now, Mark Hayden will be moved here to the Adelaide Pre-Release Centre and will likely be allowed out into the community on day release. Ray Davies' family claims they only found out through media reports and say if the parole board doesn't know where all the victims' loved ones are living, how can they feel safe?
It makes me sick. I'm scared that he'll be released into my suburb.
The state government bid to have Mark Hayden supervised upon release will go before the Supreme Court on Wednesday. Hannah Ford, 7 News.
The family of injured SA jockey Chelsea Reynolds have revealed she's opened her eyes for the first time since being placed in a coma after a horror training fall. The 29-year-old was flown to Flinders Medical Centre after an incident on the Fleurieu last month. Her sedation levels have now started to be reduced, but while she has opened her eyes, she's not yet responding. Her family says her recovery is going to be long and slow.
Opposition leader David Speers is sticking by his embattled Dunstan by-election candidate, accusing the government of dirty tactics. Anna Finizio admits she applied for a job with Labor 4 years ago but has rejected calls to withdraw from the race.
Facing the music with her band of Liberals, Anna Finizio addresses revelations she applied for a job with Labor.
This is a policy and research role, and to me it was just a natural step in my career.
The position was in the office of then Shadow Attorney General Kaya Ma in January 2020.
It wasn't advertised as a political role. I didn't receive the job and that's it.
How can it be that a candidate who wanted to work to bring down Stephen Marshall as Premier now wants his endorsement to replace him as a Liberal?
David Spears admits he only found out yesterday, but says Miss Finizio's done nothing wrong.
And there's a pattern of behaviour emerging from Tom Coutts-and-Ton. There's a pattern of behaviour towards an ambitious, talented, dynamic young woman.
Describing the leak as a gross breach of privacy.
It's in the public interest that this comes out.
It comes just days after it was revealed Anna Finizio was a director of a company that collapsed 2 years after she left, owing millions.
Did she sign a stag deck saying she'd never been involved in a company that ultimately went into administration?
Today, David Spears was standing by his candidate, refusing to say if Anna Finizio was upfront about her role as a director during the vetting process.
I stand beside Anna Finizio, proud that she is our candidate in this seat.
His party's also taken a shot at Labor's candidate Cressida O'Hanlon, accusing her of misusing her position to secure her husband's business top-level government meetings. Today, she refused our request for an interview. And while the major parties were caught in a catfight, the candidate for the Animal Justice Party came out on top this afternoon when the ballot paper order for the March 23rd by-election was drawn. Andrea Nicholas, 7 News.
An Encounter Bay woman's been arrested for defrauding the River Murray flood recovery scheme. The 47-year-old's accused of illegally claiming almost $20,000 in government grants that was meant for businesses hit hard by the 1-in-100-year event. She'll face court in April, charged with deception. Investigators are now working to identify any other flood grant fraudsters.
It's feared a discarded lithium battery may be responsible for a massive blaze at a Wingfield recycling plant. It's the second time this week thick plumes of smoke have blanketed nearby suburbs, forcing residents to stay indoors.
Midday at Wingfield, a massive inferno erupts. Flames leaping from piles of paper and plastics packed inside a storage shed.
We have a large amount of cardboard on fire inside and external.
We've got crews surrounding the building at this stage trying to get access to it.
Workers at an asphalt paving and construction business next door watched on nervously.
Pile of plastics going up. I'm not sure how it started just yet, but the firefighters are looking to control it.
With large amounts of toxic smoke filling the air, residents were warned to stay indoors. MFS crews aren't taking any chances. There are close to 100 firefighters with 20 trucks working in shifts to bring this blaze under control. It comes just days after flames engulfed this Wingfield scrapyard. MFS crews put it out by pumping foam onto the fire. They did the same today to smother the flames. A cause is undetermined, but the MFS suspects a lithium battery thrown into a rubbish bin could be to blame.
We're attending a lot of them in recent times now, and a lot of it's to do with the stuff that people are putting in their recycling bins.
The damage is expected to run into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
An accused thief has gone to great lengths to avoid police at Mansfield Park, hiding in a family's wheelie bin. Police dogs sniffed him out after a short foot chase around 7 last night. The alarm was raised when the suspect was seen acting suspiciously on a building site on Haven Road.
I said to my neighbour, I said, where was he hiding? He looked so dirty. Anyway, I heard on the 6 o'clock news this morning they got him in the wheelie bin.
The 30-year-old Angle Park man faced court today.
A motion to hunt and kill sharks responsible for attacks has been put to a meeting of 11 regional mayors at Woodner on Eyre Peninsula. The Mayor of Elliston, Andrew McLeod, is behind the push, but the idea didn't get the support it was after today. The meeting voted instead to do more research on shark activity before writing to the Minister with its recommendations. There were 3 deadly attacks in South Australian waters last year.
A 19-year-old man is fighting for life after a horror crash at Williamstown. The local teenager was a passenger in a car that slammed into a tree shortly before 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. He was airlifted to hospital in a critical condition. The 49-year-old woman behind the wheel, who's also from the area, suffered serious injuries.
Victims and survivors of the White Island volcano eruption have been awarded millions of dollars in compensation. But serious questions remain over whether the private island's owners will ever be forced to pay.
4 years on from the White Island disaster, finally justice.
We've got Chapter 1 of what I feel is some closure.
A New Zealand court awarding survivors and victims' families $9.5 million in compensation over the deadly eruption that killed 22 people, including 17 Australians, and left more than 24 others with life-changing injuries.
Oh my God.
Adelaide man Gavin Dallow and his stepdaughter Zoe died in the eruption. For Gavin's sister Meredith, a sense of relief.
There's been some accountability held at long last.
The court also finding 5 companies found to have ignored risks to use an active volcano to make money.
We are deeply sorry about the whole incident.
The biggest fine handed to the company held by the Buttle brothers, long-time owners of White Island. But the court heard Wakari Management Limited claims to have no assets and therefore no way to pay the court-ordered penalties. There may be no commercial basis for doing so, but many would argue there's an inescapable moral one, warned the judge. The world is watching. From the brothers' lawyer today,
I need to take instructions. I need to talk to my clients.
Chris Reason, 7 News.
The government and opposition are now both supporting Australia's top spy boss in his decision not to name a former politician who betrayed the country by selling secrets to foreign spies. Anthony Albanese's rejected calls for his government to reveal the individual's identity under parliamentary privilege.
The idea that any ministry in my government will just go out against the wishes of the ASIO Director General, I find quite extraordinary.
I think it casts a cloud over former MPs, and that's why, I think if you can, you should name the person. But Mr Burgess has outlined why he can't. We accept that advice.
Mike Burgess says ASIO needs to protect sources and the individual is no longer a threat.
A pre-dawn convoy carrying aid through Gaza has turned deadly after Israeli troops opened fire on a crowd of hungry Palestinians. More than 100 people were killed in the gunfire and the resulting stampede, but Israel claims its soldiers did nothing wrong.
Still in motion, starving Palestinians descend on a convoy of aid trucks. Surging forward, they swarm the vehicles, desperate for a share of the life-saving supplies inside. What happens next is now contested, but it's left more than 100 dead and more than 750 injured. We were surprised by Israeli tanks, this man says. They came out and opened fire. We went to get food and flour, according to another, and they started shooting us. Their claims Israel denies, only there to secure the humanitarian corridor, it says, releasing this edited footage, admitting warning shots were fired before weapons were turned on some Palestinians approaching IDF troops.
When the hundreds became thousands and things got out of hand, the tank commander decided to retreat.
Israel says many of the deaths were caused by spooked Gazan drivers ploughing through the desperate crush of people. The International Criminal Court is now vowing to investigate.
We will be monitoring that investigation closely and pressing for answers.
As mediators now confront the question, will this jeopardise plans for a ceasefire?
I know it will.
In a 5-month war that's now taken more than 30,000 Palestinian lives. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
Adelaide United goalkeeper Grace Wilson has broken new ground, becoming the first player in A-League history to come out as non-binary. After keeping it quiet for 2 years, the 18-year-old recently told teammates.
The biggest issue was kind of fighting a lot of those internalised gender stereotypes that I had placed on myself and placed on others. And so, kind of removing all of that allowed me to fully understand who I was.
Grace is currently in Uzbekistan with the young Matildas.
The Prime Minister's hinting at more cost of living relief in the May budget ahead of this weekend's crucial Dunkley by-election. It's expected to be a close race as the opposition doubles down on attacks over immigration.
Campaigning with Jody, but not that Jody.
Nice to meet you, Jody.
Yeah.
The bride, the boy. Different Jody. My second favourite Jody.
Jody Bellier, his candidate for Dunkley, a by-election forced by the death of Labor MP Peter Murphy. Today, another 63-year-old Victorian Labor Senator Linda White.
It's just so sad.
Peter Dutton also with his candidate, local Frankston Mayor Nathan Conroy.
And you got the CIPO on as well.
Defending attacks on Immigration Minister Andrew Giles over sexual assault charges against a released detainee that have been withdrawn.
I think it's entirely reasonable that you would make that the points that we made.
If you don't worry about the facts, but you just shoot from the hip.
Mr Dutton's deputy Susan Lee doubling down, saying women worried about being assaulted by foreign criminals should vote against Labor.
As a woman, I am not taking a backward step on this, and I'm calling it out.
This is a classic desperate, grubby political scare campaign.
This is a local election, but it will have implications for the national leaders. For Peter Dutton, the first real test of whether the momentum he believes he's getting against Anthony Albanese is real or not. The big by-election issue?
The cost of living more than anything.
The tax cuts will help.
The Prime Minister hinting the May budget will bring more help.
We'll do what we can to put more dollars in people's pockets.
As both manage expectations and a seat Labor holds by 6.3%, a swing of half that
would be a devastating result for the Prime Minister.
By-elections are tough.
And tomorrow they'll discover just how tough. Mark Riley, 7 News.
All right, it's time to check in with Soder on what's coming up in sport.
Well, the Power gearing up right now for the final pre-season hit-out against the Dockers. Now, we're going to head to Alberton shortly. Plenty of eyes on a tall forward tonight. And a key Crow ready to make his return on the weekend at just the right time after a really long stint out of footy. And the calamitous Kiwis put up little resistance with the bat against the Aussies in Wellington. All the highlights of the first test and plenty more coming up shortly.
Catch you then. Thank you, Soda. At the busiest time of the year, a snap ban on fishing has taken southeast communities by surprise. That story's next.
Also, workers evacuated and buildings shut down as a sinkhole opens up.
Vladimir Putin's chilling nuclear warning to NATO over the war in Ukraine.
And later, a health warning over makeup brushes, how they could be harming you.
Communities in the state southeast are reeling from a snap ban on fishing at one of their busiest times of the year. A local tackle and bait store says its earnings are down by almost half. And to add insult to injury, it only learned about the ban on social media.
Craig Philp was gearing up for a bumper Easter at his Mount Gambier tackle shop.
Our business, we would have dropped 40-odd%.
Instead, a snap fishing ban on commercial and recreational anglers could see him facing financial ruin.
Yeah, over a few weeks it could turn into tens of thousands of dollars, so that will, as far as a small business goes, that will hurt us big time.
An exclusion zone's been set up to control an outbreak of a deadly disease that could wipe out the lucrative abalone industry. It takes in around 30 kilometres of beach from Neen Valley to the Victorian border and 10 kilometres out to sea. And it couldn't come at a worse time for anglers and local businesses.
We're sort of gearing up for Easter. This sets us up for winter. So if we struggle between now and, say, middle of June, it's going to be a long winter for us.
It's the first time the deadly disease has reached South Australian waters.
It can have mortality of up to 90%. So that's absolutely devastating if it really does get widespread, which is why it's so important that the control zone is in place and that people do adhere to that.
The exclusion zone's in place until the 8th of March.
Surveillance and sampling that is ongoing at the moment will inform whether there needs to be any extension to that.
Craig says the ban came out of the blue and hopes it's short-lived.
It happened pretty quickly. We found out on Facebook, believe it or not.
Deanna Williams, 7 News.
Vladimir Putin has threatened nuclear war and the destruction of civilization if NATO troops are deployed in Ukraine. The Russian president is soon up for re-election and is ratcheting up the war rhetoric.
The Russian president's annual address to parliament.
Vladimir Putin promising a glimpse into the future with this warning to the West.
All this really presents a threat of a conflict with the use of nuclear weapons and therefore the destruction of civilization. Don't they understand any of this?
Promising Russia's nuclear arsenal is in full combat readiness, taken as a pointed response to the suggestion from the French president NATO troops could be sent to Ukraine. The Russian leader called the conflict a defensive operation, praised Russian business for withstanding Western sanctions, but made no mention of opposition leader Alexei Navalny, his funeral to be held in the coming hours. Vladimir Putin's rhetoric designed not just to be heard around the world, but at home too. Russians go to the polls in a fortnight. A presidential election few outside the country expect to be free nor fair. If Putin wins as expected, he'll be in power until at least 2030. By then, he'll be 77. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
A two-storey office block is on the brink of collapse in Sydney after a 10-metre sinkhole opened up early this morning. Workers inside were forced to flee the building. It's believed tunnel works on a nearby freeway may have caused the sinkhole to form. Luckily, no one was injured. Well, as the Fringe nears its halfway mark, there's a way families in Adelaide's northeast can enjoy the fun of festival season for free.
Casey's in Civic Park at Modbury tonight, and Casey, thousands are expected there this weekend.
Well, organisers of the annual Summer Garden Festival expect between 8 and 10,000 people here both tonight and tomorrow. And there is said to be some pretty popular fringe acts to hit the stage with DJs and roving entertainment too. And from tomorrow, there'll be plenty of family-friendly shows as well as live music. Now, as well as the shows, there's a full food truck setup and market stalls too. But the best part is entry to the Summer Garden Festival here, and entry to any of the shows is completely free. And I'll be back with a look at how the weekend weather is shaping up in the forecast shortly.
Looks like a lot of fun. We'll catch you later, Casey. Facebook's future in Australia is clouded after the social media giant's decision to ditch a deal to pay for news content. That's next.
Also, the new link between the air we breathe and Alzheimer's disease.
Coffee sold at Aldi named one of the world's best brews from a supermarket chain.
And later, Qantas launches Australia's newest plane. We're on board.
Social media giant Meta is staring down a confrontation with the federal government after scrapping a deal to fund Australian news publishers. Facebook and Instagram's owner will stop paying publishers for content in a move considered a threat to journalism.
The social media giant delivering the news that it won't be delivering on news anymore. Facebook refusing to renew deals with Australian media worth an estimated $70 million a year.
This is a dereliction of its responsibility to Australia.
Its owners Meta saying it's dropping its news tab. We know that people don't come to Facebook for news and political content. News makes up less than 3% of what people around the world see in their Facebook feed. Saying that Australian media can still post content on Facebook, but the $1 trillion plus company won't pay for it.
Journalism is important, and the idea that research and work done by others can be taken for free is simply untenable. That's not the Australian way.
But it seems to be the Facebook way in 2021. Its 5-day news blackout affected not just media, but emergency services, Weather Bureau and charities before the current rules were agreed.
This is going to cost Australian jobs. It's going to mean less Australian news.
With calls for the government to now designate Facebook, requiring it to negotiate a deal for content. Channel 7's owners 7 West Media agreeing Meta need to be designated. The case has not only been made, but proven.
This is a large multinational company protecting its profits against the interests of the community, and that's something we should all be extremely concerned about.
Paul Kadak, 7 News.
Aussie researchers are close to proving a link between Alzheimer's disease and a tiny particle in air pollution. Traces of a form of iron known as magnetite have previously been found in the brains of sufferers. Studying the effects of magnetite on mice, a team from the Sydney University of Technology found it can increase anxiety and short-term memory loss. They say fewer than 1% of cases are inherited, so environment and lifestyle must play a key role.
Joe Biden says he wants to work with Donald Trump in a rare show of bipartisanship. The presidential rivals both visited the US-Mexico border, which shapes as a major election issue. Trump leads the charge to shoot down Biden's border control plan.
Here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Join me, or I'll join you. Instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done?
Working together seems unlikely, though, with claims of a migrant crime wave only helping Trump's cause.
Prince William has returned to public duties, visiting a London synagogue where he expressed his and Kate's extreme concern over the rise of anti-Semitism. William met with young members of the Jewish community as well as a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor. And with King Charles still out of action, Queen Camilla hosted the Ukrainian First Lady at Clarence House.
A fire has killed at least 43 people and injured dozens more at a 6-storey shopping mall in Bangladesh. Firefighters rescued survivors from the burning building using a crane to reach those on the upper levels. The blaze is understood to have begun at a restaurant on the first floor.
SpaceX has launched another batch of Starlink internet satellites into orbit. The Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral with 23 satellites on board. The mission marks the 11th flight for the Falcon 9. It successfully landed on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean just 8 minutes after liftoff.
Caffeine lovers are facing a fresh price hike, with baristas predicting we'll soon be paying as much as $7 for a cup of coffee. But there are bargain alternatives, including the world's best at Aldi.
Roasted in the outer western suburbs and sold at your local Aldi. This, according to the Super Bowl of coffee competitions, is among the world's best, crowned overall winner of the large chain champion category at the Global Golden Bean Awards.
You're talking about the chocolates, caramels, nutty type flavours which work really well with milk or as an espresso.
Lazio beans are roasted in Truganino. Prices vary but range between $12 and $22 a kilo.
The quality of the coffee remains consistent, and I think that's one of the big things for Aldi customers in store. They're able to come in there and it's exactly the same today, tomorrow as it was last year.
Well, Melbourne is the home of coffee for the world, so, you know, it shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone that the best chain coffee is roasted here.
It comes as the cost of a coffee at your local continues to rise due to a variety of local and global factors. It's forcing many Melburnians hit by the cost of living crunch to search for cheaper alternatives. The average cup of cafe coffee will set you back around $5. That could rise to $7 soon.
Green coffee prices are going up, wages are going up, milk prices are going up. It is harder for cafes to actually earn money.
It was a dark secret for a while. I get my coffee from Aldi, but now as we continue to win the awards, people are going, I drink that at home.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
And new competitors promising to shake up international travel, offering 30% cheaper flights to Europe. That's next.
Also, the swimmer who conquered the South Pole in budgie smugglers.
And later, the tests exposing the ugly truth hiding in makeup brushes.
Tonight's edition of The Nightly is out now. Australia's only digital newspaper to drop nightly. And it's free. Delivered to your pocket every weeknight. Spend your night wisely. Free at thenightly.com.au.
A new competitor is about to shake up international airfares, offering flights to Europe 30% cheaper than big airlines. And Australia's newest plane takes flight, promising a brighter, more comfortable ride for passengers.
Look up and you'll see new players in the sky. A fresh Airbus for Qantas. And a fresh start for Turkish Airlines in Australia, already bringing down airfares.
International airfares down on average about 14% just over the last few months.
The Airbus A220's first commercial flight went from Melbourne to Canberra.
All cabin baggage needs to be stowed in the overhead lockers.
It seats 137 and gradually replaces the Boeing 717.
We get to fly at higher altitudes, so we'll remain clear of the majority of the weather.
The range of the old Boeing is almost doubled by the new Airbus. Potential for new routes for the nimble aircraft.
It's a huge day for AvGeeks. Flying on the new A220 Airbus is basically a dream come true.
So what might passengers notice on board? Well, for starters, there's no seat-back entertainment unit, but there is Wi-Fi. The other point is the windows. They're huge, the biggest windows of any single-aisle aircraft. Airbus designers claim on board it gives you a sense of having more room.
I think it's the first time they actually have Wi-Fi on the regional jet, so Wi-Fi speed's pretty fast as well.
It also burns 25% less fuel. Turkish Airlines begins flying here tomorrow with sale fares. Melbourne to Istanbul, 1,500 return, at least 30% cheaper than similar flights with other airlines.
That extra capacity in the market will likely put downward pressure on fares, particularly into Europe.
There's going to be probably another 9 or 10% decrease over the next 6 months.
Turkish Airlines is planning Sydney flights soon. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Now for a check of the day in finance, the ASX has set a new 100-day high. Here's Angela Cox.
Yes, and it's good news even if you don't have shares, because your super fund probably invests in Australian companies. The market closing 47 points higher. The big winner, Life 360, a mobile app parents use to track their kids, jumping 38%. Bitcoin hit an Australian dollar record price. Gold added 1%. And the cost of raiding our superannuation piggy banks is becoming clearer. Industry super funds estimated we pulled out $38 billion in early withdrawals, and it will hurt us in the long run. A 30-year-old who withdrew the maximum $20,000 from their super will be roughly $90,000 worse off in retirement. It's estimated every 20-year-old will pay at least $3,000 more in tax to cover the shortfall.
Thank you, Ange. Experts have issued a health warning over the nasty side of makeup brushes, what's really hiding in them and how they could be harming your skin and your eyes. Don't miss that story a little later in 7 News.
An Australian extreme swimmer has joined a rare list of only a handful to have ever swum the North and South Poles. The achievement made all the more remarkable because he did it in his budgie smugglers.
They call him the Sea Bull. And this was Linton Mortenson's reaction after his latest feat of extreme ocean swimming. This week, the 59-year-old Queenslander swam 1 kilometre in Antarctica, the water's just above 0 degrees.
17:22!
That's 17 minutes and 22 seconds in freezing water, wearing only his budgie smugglers, goggles and cap.
Yep, we got you.
It's brutal as soon as you hop in. It's ice piercing through the veins. It's sensory overload.
He's no novice, having swum the English Channel, Manhattan Island, Lord Howe Island, and this South Pole effort follows his North Pole Ice Mile in 2022, a challenge more mental than physical.
Looking deep inside, into your core, into your soul at those temperatures.
Recovering can be the most painful part.
It's probably like hammers being smashed on your hands and feet because the blood leaves the extremities and goes to protect your vital organs.
But afterwards, the feeling is euphoric.
You're buzzing on your body's the greatest pharmacy in the world.
Linton will be inducted into the Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame in May. He might have thawed out by then. Alexandra Cullen, 7 News.
Not sure about that.
Courageous decision to go just in the budgies there, isn't it?
If you did it in the boardies, no one's thinking any less of you, are they?
No, even a wetsuit would be okay, but budgies,
It would have been freezing.
Hardcore.
God,
That's
sure is.
Well done, Linton.
Let's move on to sport. Hey, Soda, the first bounce at Alberton, not far away.
No, not at all. Port Adelaide just warming up for what's going to be their final hit-out of the pre-season. They are ready to go. Also coming up, the Crows welcome back a much-needed key defender as they put the finishing touches to their pre-season ahead of an Eagles clash on the weekend. The Aussies in the box seat after cleaning up the Kiwis quickly in Wellington. And Dan's the man. The Aussie and his famous smile were back on top in Bahrain. Hello again. Port Adelaide gets one last chance to put its pre-season plans into practice tonight when it hosts Fremantle at Alberton. Andrew Hayes is there. Hazy, good opportunity to get some key minutes into some key players.
spot on, Soda. The club's going to treat tonight as a full dress rehearsal for round one, and all eyes will be firmly planted on Todd Marshall. He's going to be vital up forward if the club has any chance to push for a premiership. But he's had a bit of an interrupted pre-season because of hip surgery, and he's also been battling a foot injury. Tonight he gets a chance to find some form and fitness, and as does Willem Drew, who missed last week with a sore shoulder. There's still plenty of spots up for grabs and a great opportunity to put all the hard work over the pre-season to the test.
I think if you looked at the whole of the pre-season, I'd like to think we've improved. That being said, you know, the season's a different beast, and finals is a different beast, as we found out come the back end of the year. So if you look at our finals form, we've got a lot of improvement to do to make up for what we didn't do in that time of the year. So have we improved? I'd like to think we have over the whole of the pre-season.
Now, big man Ivan Soldo hasn't emerged yet for the warm-up, but he is expected to play despite missing yesterday's captain's run with back soreness, and he's going to try to cement himself for round one against West Coast over the club's other ruck recruit, Jordan Sweet. Mitch Georgiadis and Josh Sin are being rested tonight, but are certainly in the mix to face the Eagles. So a big test tonight for the Power against the Dockers at Alberton. We'll have a full match analysis and everything you need to know tomorrow night in 7 News at 6. Soda.
Thank you, Hazy, for that. Now, Crows key defender Jordan Bartz won't be restricted in his return to footy against West Coast tomorrow. It's been 7 months since he suffered a season-ending foot fracture. He's also had hamstring issues.
This is my second hammy this pre-season, so definitely a bit more conservative this one, and just getting some good strength back into both of them. So a couple of weeks off in rehab, and feeling stronger than ever.
His return is timely with Nick Murray's absence until late in the season due to a knee reco and Tom Duday's exit to Brisbane.
That's what's good about the group. We've got a lot of depth in the back line, and we've got players that can play multiple positions in multiple matchups as well. So we're all pretty confident in the group we have.
Now it'll be the Crows' last hit out before the regular season kicks off. That's against the Suns in a fortnight's time. Well, a stunning 116-run 10th wicket stand from Cameron Green and Josh Hazlewood has put the Aussies in a dominant position after day 2 of the first test against New Zealand in Wellington. Now, top order Kiwi calamity followed as the hosts were rolled for just 179, but they did snare the wickets of Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne just before stumps.
Resuming on 103.
Oh, goodness me.
Cameron Green's coming of age as test number 4 continued in a last wicket stand to infuriate the hosts.
Beautiful.
Josh Hazlewood's 22, Green's career high 174 not out, from 4 for 89 to 383. From none for 12.
Oh, there it is.
A Kiwi debacle. Kane Williamson run out second ball.
Got to hurry. It's a mix-up.
After a mid-pitch collision with Will Young. Whiz-kid Rachin Ravindra next.
And the end, he's gone.
3 for none in 6 balls. 3 times the Black Caps lost wickets in runless clumps. 2 at 29. Another 2 at 113. Glenn Phillips 71 and Matt Henry's late hitting saved some face. 204 ahead, Steve Smith. A third ball duck, the peril of opening late in the day. Marnus Labuschagne went for 2, 3 runs for the match, a slump growing deeper. The Aussies will resume with night watchman Lyon just intact. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
And South Australia is 8 for 257 at stumps on day 1 of its Shield clash with New South Wales. Nathan McSweeney, Tom Kelly and Ben Menenti all notched half centuries. Well, Adelaide United boss Carl Veart has launched a passionate defence of his strategy as the Reds continue to balance the development of young SA players while still remaining competitive.
To be sustainable in the league, you need to bring income in, and one way of getting that revenue in is by selling players. In a way, we're sort of ticking the boxes that we've said that we were going to be and what we are as a football club. We're sticking by that, and while I'm here as a coach, that's always going to be the way that we're going to produce and give opportunities to our young players.
10th place United takes on top of the table Phoenix in Wellington on Sunday afternoon. Well, Daniel Ricciardo and his famous smile are back lighting up Formula One. He was the fastest in the first practice session for the season opener in Bahrain. Oscar Piastri was in third.
I know we got some time to find, but I feel like we do know some areas to find it. So I'm excited to get stuck into the data.
Piastri backed up with 5th and Ricciardo 12th in P2. Reigning champion Max Verstappen was 6th in both sessions. Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes on top. And finally, tomorrow's one to watch is running at Morphettville. Race 6, number 8, a Carrada. Good luck if you have just a little tipple on that one. Big weekend. Footy will be put away then, and we are ready to start the real stuff. Don't worry about the pre-season. Get rid of it.
It's so close now. Looking forward to it. Good on you, Soda. Well, if you rarely or never clean your makeup brushes or sponges, you might want to pay attention.
Using dirty tools could be behind common skin conditions, and tonight we can reveal what's really hiding within.
Makeup brushes and sponges, a breeding ground for bacteria.
A dirty makeup brush is a germ factory.
Used daily and without being washed, they accumulate dead skin cells, dirt and oil, causing anything from clogged pores and skin breakouts to nasty infections.
You can get fungal infections, you can get staph, bacterial infections.
To find out what's really lurking within, we took some for testing, where they were sorted, swabbed, studied, and the results...
I wasn't particularly surprised. Longer in between washes, the higher the bacterial load on that brush.
The most interesting was the freshly washed makeup sponge.
As you can see, that's heavily contaminated.
Because it was still damp, it had very high levels of bacteria and also tested positive to Staphylococcus and Pseudomonas, a type of germ that can cause infections.
Bacteria really love the presence of water, so if there's no water, there's nothing really for them to grow on. I would definitely let them dry.
Clearly, cleaning needs to be an important part of your beauty routine. Dermatologists say for personal use, you need to be doing it at least weekly.
Rinse it under lukewarm water and then dip it in a bowl with gentle or baby shampoo and give it a nice little swirl and then re-rinse it. So rinse and repeat.
Those with acne should be more rigorous, and when the brush loses shape and bristles start falling out, it's time to throw it out.
The more things you can do to minimise your bacterial load and the risk of infection, the better it is for your skin.
Keeping brushes soft and sanitised and your skin thankful. Georgia Holland, 7 News.
It's called Dogs in the Quad. More than 50 furry friends turn up for Bring Your Pooch to School Day. That's next.
And weather-wise, we're in for a fine weekend for the annual Summer Garden Festival here at Modbury. Those details coming up next.
The new warning. Nicotine alternatives marketed as the new vape. How they're illegally making it to our shores. Plus, make your money go further. The top 5 holiday destinations to get bang for your Aussie buck. And beating 330-itis. The healthy alternatives for your afternoon sugar hit. Only on Weekend Sunrise.
Time for the weather now with Casey, who joins us again from Modbury.
And Casey, another dry and mild weekend's in store.
Certainly for Adelaide, Will. So organisers for the annual Summer Garden Festival here in Adelaide's northeast are thrilled, hoping it'll help draw big crowds for both tonight and tomorrow. The sunshine returned to Adelaide for most of the day today, helping the city reach a top of 27.8, and it's still around 23 degrees now. Elsewhere around the state, hot and humid up in the northern parts. A top of 42 Roxby reached today, while a thundery band of cloud delivered showers from the west coast through to the Flinders, and that system's triggered a severe thunderstorm warning for heavy rainfall over the next few hours. A trough will keep persisting over northern parts and will be the instigator for more storms and showers tomorrow, while a high returning to the Bight will deliver the fine conditions to the south over the weekend. Interstate tomorrow, a top of 33 for Brisbane, shower or 2 and 27 for Sydney. Warm and windy over in Perth, up to 34, chance for a shower too. Back home, storm action looks most likely over Pukacha, but could travel further south too. Isolated showers are likely over the northern agricultural area and pastoral districts, so a shower or 2 and 27 for Port Augusta, 25 for Whyalla, 28 for Port Pirie and Kadina, partly cloudy, and 29 for Renmark, 26 for Nariutpa and Murray Bridge, 21 for Victor Harbour, and cloudy and 22 for Mount Gambier. And there is still some heat wave conditions about parts of the northwest pastoral. For the city, down to a low of 15, heading for a top of 28 tomorrow. On metro waters, southeasterly winds to 15 knots, tending southerly to 20, then southeasterly in the evening, seas to 1.5 metres. To the surf, good small conditions for the mid-coast, while winds won't be great for Victor despite the big swell down there this weekend. Looking ahead, a sunny 25 on Sunday, mostly sunny and 29 Monday, a sunny 34 on Tuesday, chance for a light shower Wednesday with a top of 30, 28 Thursday, 31 Friday, so still very little sign of any wet weather over Adelaide. Meanwhile, before we go, let's take a look at tonight's ray of sunshine. How's this set up for show and tell? Investigator College at Victor Harbour brought some furry friends into the mix for the 3rd annual Bring Your Dog to School Day. They call it Dogs in the Quad, and today more than 50 pooches belonging to students and staff flooded the Oval for plenty of walks and pats. The event aims to boost student wellbeing, but it appears the pups get plenty out of it too. Meanwhile, a group of Year 12 students from Seton High got a break from the classroom today, popping into the 7 studio at Hindmarsh to learn the ropes of the newsroom and even had a go at reading the bulletin.
And more tonight at 6.
Yay! And here's hoping one or two of them might be interested in a career in media, guys.
Let's hope so, and they were a lovely bunch. They caught me in the makeup chair.
Did they? They had a good teacher in Elle too, it looks like.
Yeah, she did a wonderful job.
That is all the news to now. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
For all the Adelaide 17 for now, it's good night.
Good night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.